Hello, ladies, gentlemen, dogs and amoebae. We are back for Game 7 of the 2018 National Scrabble Championship final here in the UK. This is the penultimate game of the day, and the final day will be a rolling start, so we can't necessarily tell you when it's going to start, but it'll be pretty soon. This round, we see the players sitting in positions 5 and 6. We have Stu Harkness playing Jamie Jones. Jamie, having just won a romper stomper of a game, playing a 9-timer of Ento Zoel for 203, which his opponent challenged, so 208. So obviously feeling pretty upbeat, I would imagine, coming into this game. Both players rated currently in the early to mid 160s, which suggests they know what they're doing, but we could be in for some interesting play. So here we go. Opening rack, Jamie to start. Lots of choice actually with this one. Few fives, Bode, Bowie, Boyd, Dowie, Dobie, Yowd, etc., etc. Question is whether he plays short or whether he plays long. Something like YOW would shout out, keeping Bide if you wanted to play short. Alternatively, Yowd and YOWED, which indeed he has played. All much of a muchness, I think. Stu holding a rack which looks like it should make bonuses, but it doesn't. And no 8s to the best of my knowledge. Then you start thinking, are there any double doubles through that? I'm afraid there are not. Again, that I can see, but if anybody has spotted one that I haven't, please do keep it to yourself. So other options that we need to be thinking about are offloading the clunky tiles to the FU as a minimum. Something such as Fold, FAULD, would seem to fit that bill nicely. So potentially you could be playing this underneath or indeed above Yowd. Six-letter plays in this rack include Aidful, Dinful, Infula, Duelin, and Unlaid. A couple of options of offloading tiles onto the Y, Fainley, Knifely, but then you're keeping UD, which isn't really ideal. The key thing you really don't do with this rack is play unfailed, because I can guarantee you will not have unfailed if you play it. So gut feel at the moment, until something else comes to me, is that Fold might be the play. Okay, Stu's opted to offload the U, the F, clunky tiles as I mentioned, played Unify. Quick look at the idiot child of Quackle. Quackle has suddenly gotten smart. He agrees with me. She agrees with me. It agrees with me that Fold, either above or below, were the plays, but only by a tiny amount. I mean, Unify is not a bad play by any means. Of course, the thing that we know, but Stu doesn't, is that Jamie has the M for the front hook on Unify. So something like Kemb, K-E-M-B, perhaps. Annoyingly close to Pikemen. Quite like Kemp actually in this position. Scores well. Ideally, you'd want to keep the the E. But I don't think pin is too bad. Another option would be play something like NIMB, N-I-M-B, but then you're keeping KEP, which is getting you a little bit further away from those kinds of bonus racks. Either way, Stu has got prolated or portaled as his next move. Yeah, Mib's an okay move. Gets rid of some of the mid-scoring tiles, which might hold you back. Penk isn't a bad keep. It does, obviously, in this situation, it causes a little bit of a problem that it blocks the E. However, it does allow either tripodal or dioptral still through the I of Unify. Dioptral being the higher score. It would be interesting to know afterwards if Jamie knew Unify or maybe missed it if he did. Because for me, I think Kemp was the standout play there. And incidentally, the idiot child Quackle continues on its quest to get back in my good books and agrees with me. The only other 8 I can see with this rack would be through an N for Portland, but there is no N available in that position. So it will be interesting now to see what Stu plays. I'd say you should see tripodal, in my opinion. I think it's a relatively everyday word. Depending on how many legs you have, it could be a very everyday word. Dioptral, maybe you would need to have studied. But it's all unique tiles. There are no duplicates. They are all relatively low scoring. So this is the kind of thing that should be in an aspiring top player's study range. So we'll see what he plays. Okay, he's played Pod. The aim with Pod being to balance, to score, to take out potential scoring opportunities for your opponents, all perfectly laudable. Just in this case, there were obviously some better options. But it may have been a word issue, and I think sometimes if you don't know these amazing words, it's important to play the right move for your word power. So if there were no bonuses there, then Pod is a pretty reasonable play, I think. Moving over to Jamie's rack, achingly close to Pak Fong, but not quite. Or Kampong or various other nice plays. Something like Cop, KOP, making emo and dig, looks pretty reasonable to me. On the basis of your opponent's making the board awkward, you might as well make it doubly awkward. And ANGE works well together synergically. Kago, okay. Kago keeping pen, absolutely fine. Yeah, one I overlooked there. There's the nice 5-left player Go Pack underneath Mib. Keeping EN. Does set up the threat of a double-double with an S, and of course Stu would very quickly have played Auralist and Go Packs, which I would be able to sense in the water. That's probably the reason why I chose Cop instead. So here we go. What's he gonna, of the many bonuses, what's he gonna choose? Okay, so he's opted to play Sleotar. One of the bonuses of Taylor's missing editorial through the DI. A couple of other options, including the likes of Tolaji, which you may also know. The word which Nigel Richards famously played in the, I think it's 2005 World Championship, where he had a V on the left-hand middle triple and lined up Tolarje on his rack. And I said to the audience, but will he see it? That was the last time I was officially funny in my Scrabble commentating career. So back in the game, we now have Jamie with a tantalising looking rack. It looks like it makes millions, only makes one. It makes Persona. And there are two places to play this. Either he plays it making BAP, or indeed he plays it making Sleotars. Both of which are pretty open. In score difference, Jamie is 36 behind. Persona is opened if you are looking to open up multiple bonus lanes by playing Sleotars. Persona is open if you're just looking to score heavily consistently if you play it across making BAP. Both very similar. The quick static evaluation suggests that playing it across is marginally better than playing it down. But there's not a great deal of difference between the two. In that kind of situation, I think people can spend ages, sweat and blood, trying to work out what is the best play. Often there's very limited difference between two bonuses. So my advice is don't spend too much time trying to eke out 1 point of equity when you might completely fail to notice the fact you've just played NIVE as your outplay. Spend more time on getting the small stuff right, and the bonuses will generally manage themselves. So here we find ourselves. Stu has actually, even before I started playing Scrabble, the word wild oat was allowed, and sadly got taken out. So we're no longer able to sow them in the Scrabble community, but still we're not able to play them on the board either. So who needs it? He's going to be looking to play off a couple of tiles. Eminently fishable rack, particularly because he's got the S and the L for the hooks under Persona. If any of you listening are interested, as I am, in bizarre 6-letter words, there is Lousit on this rack, and Ostial, which is a little bit less weird. However, Ostial's sister word, Ostial spelled with an A, is potentially useful as a surprise hook for steel. So Stu has lined up a low on his rack here, which I'm guessing he's thinking about playing down the side of Persona, making Na and Al. Perfectly reasonable. Keeps the score ticking over, keeps SIT. It's not a great deal. I mean, it's probably one of the highest scores that's available on this board as things stand. Putting the W on the double letter score isn't giving a huge amount away. It's not a great tile. But I imagine that's what Jamie's opponent thought when they hung out a tile in the last game, giving Jamie his 203.9 timer. Still, lightning only strikes once, doesn't it? So a low goes down. I think that's totally acceptable as a play. Good balance of score, keep. So play passes back to Jamie, who maintains an 11-point lead. Not much at all. Ideally, he's going to be looking at scoring a lot with this set and the various scoring opportunities open on this board. Unfortunately, one tile away from Alkali is through the K of Kago. He has all Z on his rack, which is, I think, Scottish terminology for oil. We should play down the side of Persona. Indeed, Aizle, A-I-Z-L-E, playmaking P-E. But I think Ulzi scores 37. Is possibly the best play available, and unless, I mean, you can invest in the future here by playing Wall, W-A-U-L. Unclunks the rack. A-I-Z-E is a strong keep. You pick out a consonant and you're reasonably certain to get a strong play, a strong follow-up play. Next move, either down the side of Allo or across the E of Persona. The question is, do you fire everything now with Ulzi and risk what you're going to pick up with AA, but scoring heavily, or do you score less with Wall and hope in the future? There are, just looking at what's left, so there are 4 ends left, so the opportunity to pick out an end to make E-Zine for 72 is quite high. Yeah, Jamie's opted for Lazuli, which is a reasonable play, turnover. It's interesting actually looking at his play. I mean, I've not really seen much of Jamie, but over the years, when I've seen new players come onto the scene, they usually come in with strong word knowledge and play high turnover. That's the main focus of their game. And many of you may remember the late, great Mickey Nicholson. And the first time I ever played Mickey was in the British Match Play Championship quite some years ago. And he just didn't stop playing tiles. And played some great words. But I think later on learned the benefit of taking control of your rack and nurturing the rack rather than forcing it just through heavy turnover. And Jamie would seem to be a little bit more in that mode at the moment. High turnover, less strategic play, but we'll see. I mean, Lazuli is a good play. It's just probably a little bit more reckless than necessary in that situation. Going back to Stu. Yeah, tough one. You don't just want to play QI, do you? it'll be your immediate thought in this situation. But then what else do you play? Quite, Quight through the U of Lazuli, you're leaving that eye open. You play QI. Pick out one of those ends in a G and play Qigong on your next move. So back to Jamie. As he replaced the Z on his last rack, he's now picked out the X. With some good scoring plays, straight away if he wants to restrict the danger of that W, he's got Vex, making Nav, Ale, and Ox. If he wants to invest maybe in a shot at scoring more with the X, he could play something like Vena, V-E-E-N-A, down the side of a low, making Nan and Allah. But well, not really that importantly, but leaving the triple letter score open next to the X. But then you don't really have anything to play the X both ways. He has Vex down the side of Persona. Lots of openings. I think given all things considered, I think probably the more brute force play of Vex. Yeah, I had a feeling Jamie would play that. Again, talking about the turnover play, it felt to me like he was going to play 5 tiles rather than 3. Quackle, showing that it knows which side its bread is buttered, agrees with me that Vex was the right play. Vena's not far behind. Stu has no playable bonus that I can see with this. I can see Gothiest, Gothites, Shotting, Hottings, and Tonights, and Outside. Ideally, he wants to get rid of. He wants to get rid of THOUG, so maybe Tough through the U of Lazuli, giving ITS. What he doesn't know is that Jamie now has Excited. So he's played Wit, slightly worse probably than Watch in the same position. GIST, marginally more synergic, actually quite a bit more synergic than GOST. Jamie, I would expect to play a bonus fairly quickly. In this situation, there are a number of words that he could be playing, all of which fit the pattern EX, CI, and then either DE blank or blank ED. I would always play the more obscure, so I would go for Excited at this point, just because you want to try and get a challenge out of your opponent. Stu is currently sitting on Gut Rots and Rot Guts, with nowhere to play it. And to his delight, he will still have nowhere to play it when Excited or Excited go down, or Excised. So the question is, similar to the Ed Martin gambit of the last game, what has he made the blank? I'm reliably informed he's made it a T. And actually, just in raw valuation terms, excised, excited, excited all have the same value. As I say, when you're playing 5-point penalty, why not play the more obscure word when you've got the opportunity? So let's have a look at Stu's Grot. We know that Rot Guts and Gut Rots won't play. It's 118 down. From 23 down to 118 down in one move. That's got to hurt. The board's still got some potential on it. It plays through the U of lazuli down onto the T of wit, through the E, I of excited, and even through down past the PE. I was going to mention Groj. It's the kind of play that you play when you really want to throw the board open. He's keeping TTU, so ultimately, is it going to help him get back in control of this game? It's not a keep that's going to combine with many of the openings that are currently available. So unfortunately, we don't have the time to go through and analyse other options, but maybe should take a little bit more time to invest in rack management rather than just board management. Jamie, nice balanced rack. If you're not going to get a bonus, have a balanced rack to work with. Now is the time to be thinking to start blocking off some of this board if possible, particularly down through that G now that it's been kindly positioned for us. Easy everyday words like dog men jump out. On a similar note, hound underneath Groj, even hounder, although it does position the vowel underneath the double letter score. The simulation is beginning to lose favour with me again. It's suggested M8 Joe on the right hand side. It's okay, but I think personally I'd rather keep control of this board. I think Dogmen to a large extent does that, puts you over 100 in front. Your opponent's going to score 70 with a bonus. You're still 40 up, you go up, bonus back in front. You place Mo, still just over 100 in front. Your opponent plays a bonus, and you've still got a volatile opening. And if you don't pick out good tiles, you're struggling. The H is a good mid-level tile. In fact, there was a recent online questionnaire, I think, about what's your favourite mid-level tile, and the H came out on top over in the US. I would personally agree it's either that or the C. But I think HR, given what's left unseen, is a pretty solid keep. So Dogmen blocks off that side of the board and leaves you in a pretty strong position. All you then need to do is play something through one of the floaters of Excited, and you got it pretty clammed up, and you're 100 up. Jamie's staying true to what we've seen so far of playing turnover, score, but not too worried about the openings. So he's he's left the plays down the left of the H of Horns. Not necessarily a bad play, but there were probably more defensive options. So will Stu pull the trigger on Cuttiest? It's a difficult one because if you know that Cutty can also be a noun, you might talk yourself out of it. And with 3 T's, it is the lower, well, much lower probability. But really, I think if Stu is going to get back into this game, he needs to be playing Cuttiest now. Of course, he's not to know that Jamie has emergent down onto the T, but he can't be worrying about that. So in an ideal world, I think what we're seeing here is Cuttiest. He has got it lined up on his rack. So here we go, yeah. No, we're not. Oh my. Oh wow. Okay. I would say if Jamie sees emergent, and given how he's played so far, I think he will. This is going to become a bit of a rout. Yeah. 89 points. And Stu will be kicking himself because I've got a feeling he doubted himself about Cuttiest. And the problem is with the play that he actually chose in this situation, TI has just taken out openings. It didn't really score. He kept the S, absolutely, but what's he going to do with it? I mean, the plays parallel down the side of the TI weren't going to score a huge amount. His real only hope then was to play down the left-hand side onto the H, which probably wasn't going to stay. So it has to be said that probably that TI was a poor play. So he's now left in a situation of being almost 200 points adrift. The board is pretty tight. I mean, the only if only unstrict were a word instead of instruct. I hope he doesn't get tempted to play out. I mean, the balancing play here is going to be something like TUN on the right-hand side, making ENE, VARM, and TE, keeping CRST. You would hope to get one of the vowels. He's going to play cuts. Okay. I think he's probably given up with that move because that's not a That's just letting the board die, not scoring a lot. So this suggests to me that he just wants the game over with now. Matter of interest, top of the sim was Ton, the move that's just on the right-hand side. It'd be interesting to know afterwards whether not playing Cuttiest was a conscious decision, whether he saw the move and just wasn't sure of it, or whether he missed it. And indeed whether it's still playing in his head, whether it was a word or not. So back with Jamie in a very commanding position now. The key in this kind of situation is you want to make the most out of what you can. So very interesting position here. So he can use the FERS somewhere, wherever he wants. 2 T's unseen. He's got a shot at drawing Kiviot off the queue. If you're only slightly ahead, you wouldn't want to play around like that, but not necessarily a bad thing to play for at this stage, just if you can score sufficiently highly elsewhere with the other tiles. What he's not to know, of course, is that Stu has completely ruined that by having both T's, but that doesn't mean you shouldn't play for it. Ideally, what you'd want to do is play something down the side of Emergent, where Ton should have gone, but there's nothing I can see that uses the V effectively. You could play Fur for 26 points, keeping VIES, which, given what's unseen, would be pretty good. It's been pointed out to me, a Rove does play, of course, which has to be the correct play. 5 is interesting because it sets up the hooks he's got, the R and the S. Maybe he's also done it because he wanted to take out a bonus position, or 2 bonus positions down the side of PE, as well as through the I, and to a lesser extent through the C. Kintar played instantaneously by Stu. I think just keen to get the game over with. And Jamie with we could play. Let's have a look here. So there are 2 tiles in the bag. Are there 2 tiles in the bag? Okay, no, there aren't. Hold on while we update our details. So he doesn't indeed have a roof. So Stu has Jab Lat. And Jamie is sitting there with Clunky Rack, but one that makes 1 5-letter word, and it is Sieur, S-I-E-U-R, onto Fiverr. But one of my personal ridiculous favourite words, it's got skyey through the K, which scored a lot. Skyey, keeping I-U-R, which would play out with Uric and If. And the question is there another outplay if you do that? Tends to be what I do is at this stage try and find the 2-move outplay first and then try and find a better one. But to start off with, you've got to at least find one. So if you play Sieur, the YI, never a great combination to have together. It goes out with Yipe. And nothing else that I see at the moment. Yeti. No, not Yeti, because you're going to block it with Sieur. So the question is there a better play that gives you a 2-move out? Yukio, I suppose, through the K, which does leave you with just Is and Kintars as an outplay. It doesn't really set up anything too terrible, I think. Yeah. Perfectly fine play. It's being challenged, but it's good. So it's just Sky is looking like top with the static evaluation, but static isn't always great in these kinds of situations. The static evaluator is saying that Ukiyo +5 is doing worse than Ukiyo without the +5. It's probably because it believes in encouraging people rather than devastating them. I think Ukiyo, perfectly sound, is easy to go out with. And does play along with what we've seen so far of Jamie, that he's playing the good long word knowledge. Maybe could benefit a little bit more from carefully constructing a whack and a little bit more strategic vision, but actually you can't really fault too much what he's done in this game. So yeah, very well played, Jamie Jones. Hard luck on Stu there. I think he got a couple of rough draws, a bit of a miss, but certainly a deserved winner in Jamie Jones. Well done, guys. As we mentioned at the beginning of this, there is now a rolling start, so we're not quite sure when the next will begin. I think we started at 22 the hour with the last game, so I would suggest we're going to be doing that roughly the same this time around. So for now, stay tuned, and I'll be back to commentate the final game of day 1 at the 2018 National Scrabble Championships, Game 8.